Hello, I recently spoke about game playing malaise, and I am proud to announce that it has been cured, and it was cured because I decided to give Sunset Overdrive another chance. I had played through maybe 45 minutes of the tutorial missions, and it didn't really grab me, so I think I was switched to Evil Within, which is still on hold, but I wanted to go back to Sunset Overdrive, and it was actually unfortunate because I saved my point after the first 4 missions, and there's a bug that basically ruins your save, because you can't start the 5th mission, so I had to, I did a few side missions trying to start the game, and then I realized, oh man, there's this bug. So I was really tempted just to call it quits and start the game, or just never play the game again. But I'm very glad that I decided to continue playing the game, even though I'd wasted over an hour. And the thing that is really great about Sunset Overdrive is the way they fundamentally rethought the mechanics of how you play a game like that. So it's basically an open world game. It's a third-person action shooter sort of game, but the real innovation and the best part of the game is the movement set. And so basically the most fun in the game that I've had was just getting from point A to point B and chaining all the moves. And originally when I was playing the game in the tutorial mission, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be lame. I don't wanna force doing all these moves, and it seems like a pain in the butt. I just want to play the game normally. And I'm not really sure why I had resistance to the idea. I think perhaps because it is a fundamentally sort of different way to play the game, and the game itself is weighted towards, it's designed around you playing that way. So early on I was like, it's hard to shoot from moving, so I'm going to just stand around and shoot the enemies. The problem is, if you do that, they're basically kick your butt. They have super lock-on abilities if you're not doing crazy navigation like grinding or bouncing or something like that. So the play style is really encouraged, and there's a style meter, which I never really fully grasped how that worked. I guess I wasn't paying enough attention in the tutorials, but I mean, to me the style meter didn't really make a difference. It didn't really encourage me to play with all the fancy moves. It was actually just the fact that it was a lot of fun to try and chain together these moves. So a little bit about the controls and how this all works is there's basically 3 important buttons for doing cool stuff. There's A, which is jump. There's X, which is sort of do a cool thing. So it works for grinding, it works for wall running, it works for maybe just grinding and wall running. I don't know. I feel like I'm forgetting something. And then there's a right bumper, which is a dash. And the dash only works in certain situations, like if you're grinding or if you're in the air, like from bouncing or jumping. You can also run on water if you press X when you land on the water, which is really cool. So, chaining them all together is really fun, and it's sort of an interesting challenge as you sort of set your goal for yourself. Like, I want to get from, point A, to my target area in, let's say, I don't know, as quickly as possible, obviously, but say it's like 900 meters away, and you're like, well, maybe if I take this grind rail, I can do my dash on that, and then there's water. I could go over to the bridge, but I think the bridge is too far, so I'm going to try and jump and then air boost and bounce off the boats, because basically anything, 90% of the objects, even when it totally doesn't make sense, work as bounce pads. So like cars, umbrellas, bushes, boats. So you can do some really interesting things to try and get to them, and so you try and, you know, grind and jump on the boat, and then you do a super jump, and then you do an air dash, and then when you hit the water, you press X, and then you can run across the water, then you jump when you're about to fall in the water, then you can do an air dash again, and repeat that until you get to the other side where there's a boat, and then you jump onto a grind rail. And just, you know, this isn't actually, you know, I talk about, like, intrinsic versus extrinsic rewards, you know, doing this is more of an intrinsic reward. You're doing it because it feels cool, and it's pretty neat, you know, that just they managed to take something sort of mundane like moving around the world and make it so interesting, so compelling that it is the main, you know, the strongest and coolest part about the game. The controls took a little bit of getting used to, and one of the things that I don't even know what the right thing to do is when you're pressing X, or I don't know if you're holding it, or I usually mash it when I'm in the air, but basically X sort of magnets you to a grind rail or a well, mostly grind rails or whatever, and you know, that's Sly kind of like Sly Cooper, but like, and I don't know if I could have done this with Sunset Overdrive, but with Sly Cooper, every time I jumped, I just held down circle, because, you know, 99% of the time it was I wanted to grab onto a post or whatever. And so when I was working on Ratatouille, which was meant to have sort of Sly Cooper navigational features, one of the things I was trying to pitch on it was the idea that it would just auto get you to rails and auto grab you to the objects. And I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure. Obviously, I didn't work on the team with on Sunset Overdrive, so I'm not sure if they tried this and there were problems, but, you know, I kind of wonder in the situation where basically you always want to grind, or, you know, if you're moving towards an object that you can grind, you always want to snap to it. I wonder if they could have just made that auto grab and then simplified the control scheme, but then on the flip side is that I kind of liked, you know, sort of this weird rhythm I was getting into with you know, A, X, right bumper, and A would also, you know, you can jump over a ledge. If you do a ledge grab, you can jump over it with A, and so there's a lot of, I don't know, it's just this kind of good feeling. It's almost like playing a rhythm game, where you have to time the button presses, although I was cheating and sort of mashing X, but you know, at least for the water run, you gotta hit it when you're right on the water and stuff, so it's definitely interesting, and I would say that it doesn't work 100% of the time, so like, there's so many things you can grind, so many things you can grab on. When you press X, you know, it doesn't always grab on the thing that you're looking for, but in the end, you know, it doesn't matter that much, because you can just, you know, you move pretty fast and you can do all these cool moves. You just move over to whatever it is you wanted to. So that wasn't a bad thing necessarily, but yeah, it's really interesting just moving around the world. And as far as the combat goes, I think it was you know, pretty good, and you know, the thing that is it's sort of in my mind, I always compare it to Ratchet, and the Ratchet guns were more interesting, and I think, you know, just by a bit, they had more silly, you know, sillier guns and things like that. Whereas most of the guns were pretty standard or just not super interesting. Well, no, there were definitely some good ones, but, you know, again, I could almost see the one-to-one mapping between the Ratchet weapons, but at least Ratchet seemed to have a larger variety, or at least I could afford a larger variety of weapons. Because And I mean, I beat the game, and then I'm probably going to go back and play the side missions, but the Ratchet balance is interesting because basically through playing the game, I would be able to level up a weapon to its maximum, and then I would switch to using a different weapon, which I talked about as sort of an interesting thing, you know, through the RPG mechanics. They're encouraging you to use a variety of weapons, because otherwise your XP is wasted. But for most of Sunset Overdrive, I used the TNT Teddy, and the TNT Teddy was the best weapon. And the interesting thing is, you know, right before I think I didn't get it to max level until after I had beaten the game. So it took me like the entire game's worth, because you get that weapon pretty early, to level up one weapon. And I feel like, you know, had I been encouraged to use more weapons, then you know, perhaps, or I could have afforded more weapons, then I think maybe that would have given combat a little more variety and would have been a slight improvement. But I mean, again, I don't know if they're balancing it for people who play through all the side missions during the regular game, rather than I just put them off to the end. Because the actual campaign, if it doesn't ruin your save, I think, you know, takes about 9 hours, which I think is a good length for a game, and certainly I think it's a great, you know, it's a check in the great column that I actually want to go back and play the side missions. The other interesting thing to talk about, I guess, is the game's sense of humor, which definitely it disagreed with some reviewers. And personally, I didn't find it bad. I mean, I enjoyed it. I didn't. It's not like the funniest game in the world, but you know, it's cute and you know, references some other video games, like a blue and a orange portal show up, and they have the funny respawn animations, which, interestingly, I thought, like, from the people talking about it, that basically there was really no penalty for death. It sounded like they were saying, but if you're doing a mission, depending on the mission, you may fail it by dying. So it's not like death doesn't matter, which is for whatever reason, that's the impression I got in my mind before I actually played the game. So there's some funny ones of those. Certainly, once you see all of them, you're like, well, maybe I could just, you know, maybe it'd be cool if it didn't take this extra time. But I mean, maybe I just died more than most people. Something interesting about the sense of humor is that when I first started playing the game, before it corrupted my save, I don't know if it was corrupted exactly, well, it was not working, but anyway, I picked a male character, and I felt like he had a little too much attitude, like he was trying a little too hard, and then when I started a new save, because I had to completely wipe my save and start a new game, and so when I did that, I picked a female character, and I found that for whatever reason, I felt like she was spot on, and she didn't have that, you know, slightly grating attitude, and again, it was a minor complaint with the male character, but then with the female character, I found that wasn't the case at all, and so I thought that was interesting, and certainly it could have been, you know, the voice actress versus the voice actor, or it could have been, you know, somehow colored by my perceptions of the character. And I mean, it could even come down to the way I dressed the character, and the character, you know, felt different to me. So I think that's a really interesting idea, and obviously I don't know how to really determine that or draw big conclusions from it, but I think, you know, who your character is, because I assume that the male and female lines is 100% the same. You know, so it's just the character model and the voice that is different, and so it's interesting how your perception of the character can be colored by that. And I wonder, you know, if the people who felt like, oh man, this is, you know, the humor gets on my nerves a little bit, you know, they were playing as like a male character, maybe they would have had a better experience with a female character. Maybe I'm the only one that was in that situation. The other thing is that there were some complaints about the language, and there's a profanity filter, but like, I didn't think the language was that bad. I mean, you know, they used profanity sometimes, but I mean, compared to like an R-rated movie, I thought it was on the small side. You know, it's not like, I think I saw like the movie Sexy Beast or something, and like that one had some colorful language, or a lot of profanity. So certainly it's nothing compared to that. So I don't know. I think it's just interesting, because to me the game was really good, and I didn't really even see these issues that some people had with them. But I mean, I think to some extent that's the problem with any time you try and create something, you know, humorous, is that, you know, not everyone's sense of humor is the same, and so what's really funny to one person might not be to others. But personally, I think they did a good job, and you know, I really enjoyed the game, so certainly I would recommend it. Anyway, thanks for watching.